Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. My first official video on my revamped YouTube channel was my top 10 games of 2021. Well, it's been over a year and now we are ready for my top 10 games of 2022. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video with your friends. Also keep in mind that this list is entirely my own opinion based off my own experiences and playthroughs, so you might agree or disagree on some of my picks. So if you do have a different ranking for some of the games, or if there's a game that I didn't even list, make sure you leave those in the comment section down below. With all that being said, let's get to my top 10 games of 2022. Personally, I think roguelikes are becoming a little too commonplace. However, the game developer Slowclap came out with a kung fu roguelike that I absolutely loved. Sifu really took me by surprise when I played it earlier this year. You play as a character seeking revenge against a man who killed your father. You go to unique parts of the city looking for clues on his killer's whereabouts while fighting others who are in league with the antagonist. Each time you die, you age up. The older you get, the more of a glass cannon you become. Also, some skills on the skill tree are taken away because you are getting a little too old to be performing them. I love this mechanic, and I don't think I have seen it in a video game or executed as well as Sifu has done it. The combat is very unforgiving, but I think that's what gives this game part of its luster. The combat consists of punching and kicking, of course, but you also are able to unlock new abilities each playthrough you do and permanently unlock certain abilities as well. The combat is the main trope in many roguelikes, and I think Sifu did an excellent job in that regard. The graphics and world felt so perfect for Sifu as well. From the alleyways of a city to a nightclub, each area felt unique, and I loved progressing each time I defeated a boss. Sifu was a welcome surprise for me, and I can't wait to see what Slowclap does next. In the previous entry, I mentioned not being the biggest fan of roguelikes, but when you take a roguelike and throw a dash of Stardew Valley and a little bit of Animal Crossing too, how could I really say no? Well, here's Cult of the Lamb, a roguelike where you play as a lamb that has been brought back from the dead to serve a cult in getting revenge, as well as recruiting and sacrificing followers in the name of the cult. This game is so cute, hilarious, disgusting, and fun all at the same time. I played this game on my own, but it is the perfect streaming game. You can fully customize your cult from their outfits, their names, and even their actual species. While in dungeons, you pick up resources for your village as well as recruiting new creatures to your cult. The combat is very hack and slashy. You get different unique weapons at the start of each run, and each run is separated by a room of doors. Each room is a different area that is run by one of the leaders of the church of the people who killed you. The enemy variety leaves a little bit to be desired in my opinion in terms of certain designs, but it gets the job done in the combat department. I have not seen an indie game this well done in a very long time. Cult of the Lamb was a pleasant surprise, and I wasn't expecting it to be as great as it was. It did win Indie Game of the Year at this year's Game Awards, so it should tell you how fun this game is. I would highly recommend Cult of the Lamb. If you told me one of the creators of Rick and Morty was going to dive into creating video games, I would be skeptical to say the least. But after playing Trover Saves the Universe and now playing their newest game, High on Life, I am a Squanch Games fan for sure. High on Life takes the humor known from Rick and Morty and throws it into a video game. Trover Saves the Universe was pretty good, but High on Life takes everything from Trover and dials it up another notch. High on Life is a first-person shooter with a silent protagonist similar to other well-known franchises. The difference being, the guns are the ones who talk. Holy crap, the guns are absolutely hilarious, but also very, very annoying. I mean that in a good way though, because it does make every gun have their own personality, as well as firing uniquely as well. The worlds all look great too. I love me a good skybox in a video game, and this game absolutely kills it with the graphics for me. The game is a bit clunky at times, and I did have 3 game-breaking glitches while I was playing, but I just reset to the last checkpoint and was able to move forward. Nevertheless, Squanch Games killed it with High on Life, and I'm so excited to see what they create next. One of my earliest video game memories was playing Kirby's Adventure on the NES with my cousin. Well, fast forward a decade or so, and now we are on to Kirby's newest adventure, Kirby and the Forgotten Land. I went in with semi-high expectations for this one, and boy, was I not disappointed. Kirby has never felt better, and never have I had more fun playing the character. The game is divided into worlds, and those are divided up into certain sections that you can explore. Each world felt very unique, and I had a blast playing as Kirby in this new adventure. Kirby felt so easy to control, and the game was so bright and colorful. The boss battles were cool and unique, and all the power-ups all made you feel overpowered, especially after you level them all up a couple of times. I also really love a game that has a hub world that can be upgraded. After saving a certain number of Waddle Dees, you can unlock new parts of your Waddle Dee town, such as a shop, an arena, and much more. It makes me feel like actual progress is being made, and it felt so great. All in all, Kirby in the Forgotten Land is a Kirby experience I won't soon forget. When you think of Nintendo, who do you think of first? Whether it's Mario, Link, or Samus. For me, it's Pikachu and the Pokemon world. Well, Game Freak's newest game was released in November of 2022, and holy crap was it a good time. Pokemon Scarlet and Violet are the start of Pokemon's 9th generation. The story in Pokemon hasn't been this good since arguably Generation 5's Black and White versions. Each side character had their own unique personality, and it felt like an actual RPG at times. Even the Pokemon felt great in this version. I had my doubts based off some leaked information ahead of the game's release, but all of that was thrown out the window from the first section of the game. It felt so nice to be in an expansive Pokemon world for the first time. Don't get me wrong, the graphics and frame rate are still very, very rough, even 2 months after the game's release, and it's what's keeping this game from being higher on my list. It is unacceptable for a game in 2022 to release in a state like this. However, the game at its core is solid, and these might be up for the best Pokemon games ever, in my opinion. If only they could just fix the graphics and frame rate issue. I loved my team for this game as I played through it with Quaquaval, Hydreigon, Armarouge, Tinkaton, Baxcalibur, and Arboliva. Each was so unique, and I had a blast with this team. I grinded through the game, completed the Pokedex, and pretty much wrapped the game up in about 4-ish real-life days with minimal sleep. For me, I know a game's good if I give up sleep for it. I loved the way the story was divided into 3 segments. The 8 gyms and their leaders, the Path of Legends, where you help your friend Arven by defeating the Titan Pokemon, and Starfall Street, where you take on this generation's evil team. Each had their own individual story, and each was so interesting that I could not get enough. I had such a blast playing through Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, but I hope next time they let their game cook a little bit longer so it releases in a better state. To say crossovers have been more prevalent in media lately would be an understatement. Well, here comes Ubisoft and Nintendo to give us another entry in their Mario plus Rabbids series in Mario plus Rabbids Sparks of Hope. Sparks of Hope takes almost everything from the first game and improves upon it. From the combat movement to the more open world portions, you'll almost never run out of things to do in this world. I love doing the side missions so much in this game that this game took a lot longer to beat just because I kept getting distracted with all the side content. While the number of unlockable characters has been reduced, the game's characters do each feel more unique than in the previous game, and each are good in their own way. I mainly used Mario for his multi-attack, Luigi for those long-range snipes, and Rabbid Mario for those up-close multi-target melee attacks. Each of its open worlds also felt so unique and interesting in ways only Mario games can. I also wanted to make sure to mention that certain levels in the game require you to use specific heroes, which I found to be a welcome change to the game. By doing this, the game forces you to know how to play as everyone, and it felt like a welcome change for sure. My only gripe is I wish there was more to unlock. You know a game's good if my only gripe is I want more of your game. Mario plus Rabbids Sparks of Hope is a great time from start to finish, and I hope we get a third game to make this a trilogy as soon as possible. We've been fortunate enough to receive 3 different Pokemon games in 1 year's span. We got Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl in November of 2021, we got Scarlet and Violet in November of 2022, and in late January of 2022, we got quite possibly my favorite game in the series, Pokemon Legends Arceus. I'm a big Pokemon collector for sure, so when the Pokemon Company made a game that's main focus was catching Pokemon, it was the perfect game for me. The game takes place in Generation 4's Sinnoh region back a couple hundred years. You see the ancestors of key characters from Generation 4 as well, and it feels so cool to see the games follow more traditional RPG systems. One of my favorites is a person outside the main building in the hub city who asks you for a Wurmple Pokemon. After you give him one and do more missions in the game, you can come back and see that his Pokemon actually evolves. I absolutely love when a game actually feels lived in. I absolutely love my Team for Legends Arceus as well. My team consisted of Hisui Decidueye, Alpha Gudra, Alpha Electivire, Alpha Gliscor, Alpha Infernape, and Alpha Empoleon. This team was so well balanced, and I had a blast finding and catching all of them. There are significantly less trainer battles compared to other games in the franchise, but I didn't really mind that. I just loved exploring each area and catching all the Pokemon in the game. As I said before, I'm a Pokemon collector first and foremost, and this game has my favorite catching mechanics ever. You don't even have to battle any of the wild Pokemon if you don't want to. Just sneak up on them and throw Pokeballs. I truly loved my playthrough of Pokemon Legends Arceus, and I hope we get more games like this from the Pokemon Company soon. When you think of flagship PlayStation IPs, you'll probably think of Crash Bandicoot, maybe Nathan Drake, or even Ratchet & Clank. But one game company has continued to push out quality single-player experiences, and earlier this year, we got a long-awaited sequel. Horizon Forbidden West is one of the best open-world games of all time. It takes nearly everything that was great from the first game and improves upon it. My biggest gripe with Zero Dawn was that I wanted more robot dinos, and I felt that gripe was addressed in Forbidden West. The story for Forbidden West is a little more complicated, but is still an amazing story. Aloy and her friends feel so fleshed out in this game, and I found myself going off the main path to do side missions just because of how much I love the world that Guerrilla Games has created. I do think there are too many weapons in Forbidden West, and I found myself not using a lot of them just because it felt slightly overwhelming at times. Forbidden West also has a sort of hub base for you and your allies. I mentioned it previously, but I love this in video games because as you progress in your journey, you are slowly unlocking new things for your base and new dialogue options for your allies. It makes the world feel lived in, and the things that I'm doing actually affect the world, and I really love that in games. Also, something I wanted to mention, I hope more games continue to use the haptic feedback in the PlayStation DualSense controller because it made Forbidden West even more immersive. When the triggers stiffen up when you cock back your bow, it feels incredible. Now, if Guerrilla Games could just release their damn games away from other games that are literally the best games ever made, maybe their games can get the recognition they truly deserve. Nevertheless, Horizon Forbidden West was an amazing sequel, and I hope we get a third installment soon. When I think of games that changed video games forever, my brain immediately goes to Halo Combat Evolved, Breath of the Wild, or even Fortnite in a lot of ways. But the most recent game that has defined video games is, of course, Elden Ring. It cannot be argued that FromSoft's Elden Ring has become one of the greatest video games of all time. Never have I seen a game bring in people from every corner of the gaming universe to play one game. Elden Ring takes FromSoft's traditional, difficult game design, incredible bosses, and unique weapon choices and adds on an open world formula to it. I've played previous FromSoft games, but I always felt either bored or I had no desire to get good. Elden Ring's world pushed me way past that. I wanted to explore this world and see what the world had to show me, and see if I was good enough to beat a FromSoft game. All I can say is FromSoft did such an excellent job with Elden Ring. I constantly found myself getting lost throughout my playthrough. Every single time I saw something in the distance, I would want to just get on my horse and go discover things. From fighting fire giants to fighting random and plentiful dragons, the game felt so perfectly done. Hardly did I lag or have any technical issues. The game was just so beautifully made. My one and only gripe for Elden Ring, and the only reason it isn't at my number one spot, is because I felt like the story exists in Elden Ring, and holy shit, is the story interesting and amazing, but the story takes a backseat almost. If I didn't actively look up lore videos, I would have missed out on a lot of cool and interesting story moments. I know FromSoft is known for this in their games, so I don't hate on them for it one bit. But I just like the story to be the focal point of a video game, with the game design and combat to come in second. Elden Ring is as close to a perfect game as it gets. It is a must play, and I hope everyone can enjoy it as much as I did. Before we talk about my number one game of 2022, let's talk about some honorable mentions. These are games that just unfortunately missed the mark for me, or games that I enjoyed but just didn't crack the top 10. So here's my honorable mentions. My first honorable mention is The Quarry. I've always loved spooky games, especially when I get to experience those games with my Twitch chat. The Quarry is entertaining as hell. After playing other games by Supermassive Studios, I definitely found myself breezing through the game, which is kind of a bummer because the game is about 60 to 70 bucks, but is only really good for a one-time playthrough for me. Regardless, the characters felt more fleshed out in the Quarry compared to Until Dawn, my favorites being Laura and Caitlin for sure. I hope Supermassive Studios continues to improve their games with each release and maybe building out their own video game universe. My second honorable mention is a cozy game called Bear and Breakfast. This game takes the basic formula of Stardew Valley, makes you animals, and introduces a bed and breakfast concept, and you get Bear and Breakfast. This game is definitely my cozy game of the year. This game is incredibly cute and well scripted. The game feels a little repetitive at times, but is still a great game and I will be revisiting often. My third honorable mention is definitely Tiny Tina's Wonderland. I love Borderlands for sure, and when I heard they were making a D&D game from the Borderland devs, I was very stoked. But what we got was just another Borderlands game. I was hoping for the looter that is Borderlands, but with swords, crossbows, axes, and other melee weapons to make it feel like an actual D&D campaign. But the inclusion of guns really took me out of the game experience. Regardless, the game's really fun, just nothing past that for me. My fourth and final honorable mention is LEGO Star Wars: The Skywalker Saga. Maybe I had too high of expectations, but LEGO Star Wars: The Skywalker Saga is just super mid to me. I think the worlds, graphics, and actually voiced characters is an incredible touch for a LEGO game, but the open world feels a little too forced upon me, and I felt like it was a chore to play through. Still a fun game, but definitely a bummer I felt this way. Alright, and finally, here is my number one game of 2022. Pain, anger, change, acceptance, loss, and happiness. Those are the emotions that my game of the year made me feel. Going from one of the best games of the PlayStation 4's lifecycle, God of War Ragnarok had big shoes to fill. This sequel didn't feel like a sequel to me. Ragnarok felt like a continuation of God of War PS4's story. Sure, there is a big time jump at the beginning, but still. These two games go hand in hand together, and I think this one cohesive story is incredibly well done. Kratos and Atreus changed so much in God of War PS4, so Ragnarok felt distinct and different from its predecessor. The combat and level up trees felt very fluid and easy for me to understand. However, I did find myself gaining a little too much XP too quickly at times because the game is absolutely breathtaking, so all I wanted to do was explore the gorgeous world that Santa Monica Studios created for us. You do get to visit all 9 realms in this game, and each felt so unique and was so fun to explore. For example, one of the side missions has you going underground to help free a giant space jellyfish. How cool is that? Also, the interaction between Kratos, Atreus, and Mimir all are so perfect. I would actively prevent myself from leaving my sled just because I wanted the characters to finish their stories. Next, let's talk about the characters and villains of the game. Each character felt like they had their own personalities, motivations, and actually felt like their own people, and it felt like an actual movie or book. From Freya to Odin to Thor. There are just so many great characters and great motivations and so many secrets that Santa Monica Studios put in this game, and I loved all of them. Now, let's talk a little bit of story. Oh my god, I was itching to play this game and find out what happens next in this story. I took a few days off from work just to play this game, as well as forgetting to eat, and was absolutely pissed when I had to go to sleep. Ragnarok takes Kratos on the journey to complete his goal of being a changed man and a good father. I heard a lot of discourse that people missed the person Kratos was in God of Wars 1 through 3, but I think we still have that character. He's just evolved. He has a kid, and his boy is the most important thing to him now. Kratos got his revenge from the Greek gods, and now all he wants to do is make sure his son can have a world to live in and live in peace. The relationship between Kratos and Atreus often reminded me of my dad and I. He and I had some bad years for a while, but my dad is my hero and one of the most important people in my life, and I feel like I better understood my own father because of how Kratos and Atreus' relationship evolved in this game. Sorry for my long spiel on God of War Ragnarok, but I truly just loved everything about this game. If I could wipe my memory of both God of War PS4 and Ragnarok, I would do so in a heartbeat, just so I could replay and re-experience these absolute masterpieces again. God of War Ragnarok is my 2022 Game of the Year. So, what did you think of my top 10 games of 2022? Make sure you leave all of your feedback in the comment section below. Thank you all so much for watching, and I can't wait to see all of the amazing games that 2023 will bring. I've been Rogine, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.